Hi everyone. Hey, good morning, all. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if they can hear my voice? Hey, good morning, everyone. We will begin exactly in another minute. There are still more people joining us, so we'll give some more time and then begin. All right, I'll get started. So, good morning. I'm Rahul Bide. I am one of the co-founders of Satcam, and in this continued series, today we are going to talk about prioritization, which is a part of the overall process of problem breaking down, looking at various solutions, enumerating them, and then being able to solve them, right? So once you have, let's say, five solutions in front of you, you got to understand which one should I pick first and which one should I do later, right? So that's the topic of conversation today. Okay, so see, prioritization is essential um, in business, basically because one has to manage limited resources, right? And all of us know that when we talk about resources, we are talking about time, budget, or people, right? Actual hands that are going to work. And we also want to ensure that these resources are employed in the maximum ROI. I am pretty sure everybody understands what is return on investment. So, in order to maximize the return of investment, return on investment, we have to make sure that all these resources are focused on the right thing. Okay, and then many other things which are almost like positive side effects happen because of good prioritization. So, for example, it prevents any kind of burnout. It prevents this notion, false notion of producing a lot of work, which I love to call it output, versus producing impactful work, which is really outcome, right? So the differentiation between outcome and output becomes very clear as we start understanding priorities better. And then think about it from even your personal experience perspective, right? You start from your home and you have to reach your college before 10 a.m., and you have 1 hour in between. Maybe the college commute takes 30 minutes out of that. So 30 minutes you are on a bus, or you are on a train, or you are on your vehicle, whatever it is, right? And then you are limited with the other 30 minutes to do maybe five to six things which are out of the 20 or 25 things which are in your to-do list. That's exactly what happens in industry, right? What you do when you plan is that you start prioritizing what is really important in this hour, right? Before I board the bus or before I get onto the train, what should I do? What can I do after I get onto the train while I'm traveling to my college? And then the rest of the tasks, can they be pushed later? So you do this more in kind of a subconscious manner, but you are doing this prioritization all the time. Cool. So what we will do is, we'll discuss some of the techniques of how the industry uses prioritization. We will take a few case studies to look at, do some kind of interactive exercise on how we think about prioritization, and then let's see, where we land. Okay. All right. Let's begin. Everybody's settled, and while that is happening, I'll just talk about, how we structure the Satkam series of sessions. So we always have case studies, and which are typically industry case studies, problems which either, are today's problems or have been solved already in the past. We talk about techniques to solve these problems. We leave behind those techniques so that, you can use those techniques in your day-to-day work, and then overall helps build skill, which is the most desired in the industry, right? And what skill are we talking about today? We are talking about prioritization and being able to do good prioritization as we move forward, right? um, we all our sessions are hands on, so which basically means that, we'll take a case, we'll work on it hands on, and, kind of through conversation, through interaction, we will arrive at a solution. Again, a 2 hour session is too small to look at problems and arrive at solutions. And I'm basically talking about typical industry problems, right? So which basically means that you got to kind of note these techniques down, make a mental or, otherwise note of these techniques, and then go apply them in your regular day-to-day work, right? Whether you are in college or even in your daily lives. All right, so today's topic is all about prioritization. um, it's kind of a little bit of a self-explanatory word, but it is also embedded and in a bigger skill, which is, problem breakdown and resolution. A big part of, getting things over the finish line, a big part of planning, a big part of getting to the outcomes that you want is prioritization, and we'll talk about it in more detail and learn about some techniques of how to do it also, right? Again, as you know, there is a chat window available to all of you. So I will encourage each one of you to send me questions as we keep moving through this session, and, I'll try my best to answer each and every, or at least as many questions as possible. All right, so let's look at something, which are symptoms, right? And what do these symptoms tell you? Okay, so while you're reading what's there on the screen, right, let me give you a little bit of color, a little more explanation on what I want you to do. One is, look at each one of these symptoms independently. What comes to your mind? Why is this happening? Okay, and what do these symptoms tell you? So, for example, and by the way, I'll maybe repeat this a few times, at least early on in this session, but please use the chat window to send me answers. There is no live conversation, so chat is the best way to converse for this session. So let's look at the first symptom, right? Say yes to everything. What does this tell you, right? Your friend calls you for, let's say, a pickleball game. You say yes. or you at least want to do it. I mean, inside you say yes, okay, um, because you don't want to miss being with your friends. You want to learn Python or all about agentic AI. You say yes, at least to yourself, right? And then there are several other incidences where you end up saying a lot of yeses, which basically mean that you are burdening yourself with a lot of things to do, right? And that brings me to the second symptom, that you have too many things on the plate and too less time to even think about what do you do with a few of them, right? Some of them you have an idea of what to do, but haven't found time to do it. Or some of them are even not in your list, but you want to get them in, and so on. So the list is always endless, right? What does this tell you? um, Another thing which we observe is things don't complete, and we all have experienced this. I have experienced this myself, that you know you start doing things, but there are several unfinished projects. There are several things which have a good start or a good intent behind that start, but it's not finished, or at least it's not finished to your satisfaction, right? So taking things beyond the finish line is what I'm talking about, and there are so many unfinished tasks. And of course, you don't feel good about anything that remains unfinished, right? At least from an industry perspective, now I'm switching the context to how the industry looks at this. There is a lot of award and recognition to people who get things done, right? And who are what I mean by getting things done, it's not always those people who have the best and brightest ideas, who call for the highest respect in organizations, but those people who actually can get things finished, okay. They definitely show consistency in finishing things, and those are the people who get things done. And getting things done is a big thing in industry. It's one of the most desirable skills, that the corporate world expects out of their employees. There is this multitasking mastery mirage, right? I purposefully use the MMM word. So, what is the mirage about it? To me, you think that you can multitask, and yes, you can do it as long as the multi has a definition. Maybe two or three or five things at the same time, but can you expand it or scale it further? Probably two things will happen, right? One is that the quality of decisions for everything that you have on your plate starts going down. Think about it like a day in the life where you have to take like five big decisions. Each big decision needs 1 or 2 hours of background research, analysis, thinking through various solutions, and then arriving at, oh, okay, now I know that this is the solution, or this is the next step for that decision, right? I can guarantee you that the more you load yourself with multiple decisions, though you have time to do it, the quality of decisions will go down, right? So it's kind of a mirage beyond a certain limit, right? And talking to some of the students, and even in the industry, we always talk about gaining mastery over multitasking is very important, but at the same time limiting that multitasking is equally important, right? Then the fifth one is a symptom that you see all the time. Again, one can't focus At least one can't focus on one thing. You start exercising, you start worrying about the research paper that you have to write, or the project that you have to submit. You start working on the project area, you start thinking about booking train tickets for your next journey, and making that phone call that is pending for some time. So there is lack of focus, or at least changing focus. And of course, if you look at or watch some of the past Satkam sessions on time management, you'll find that there are techniques on how to focus, and these are very simple day to day kind of techniques on bringing focus back to work. And when you bring that focus back again, the quality of your delivery, the quality of your work gets enhanced several fold, right? And the last one is feedback ignorance, right? So don't pay attention to feedback, which basically causes wrong output and no outcome, right? So I don't want to paint a picture of all of disappointment here. It's not that, but these are several symptoms which cause one not to get things done. They cause one um, to take the wrong calls, and so on, right? So keep asking questions in the chat. I'll look at the chat for a few seconds, and then let's see if I can answer any questions I have so far. Let's see. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. Now, what's happening here? You see two pictures on the screen. On the left side, the title says what customers want, and on the right side it says what you think they want. So please take maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and I'll pause here for 30 seconds. I want each one of you to respond in the chat box on what you think is happening in this image, in these two images that we are showing, right? What's happening here? See, when we talk about what customers want, right, always start thinking from the customer value perspective. Okay. Um, the customer gets value in the single tool that the customer is asking for on the left side. When I talk about a single tool, I'm talking about simplicity. I am talking about fulfilling the customer need by keeping it simple. When you deliver to what the customer want, obviously, you get paid for it, right? The customer basically buys your product or buys your service. There is no The customer also does not have, you know um, is not put in a situation where they have to think a lot before buying the product. Do I really need this? Do I really need that? And so on, right? And why does this happen? This is also kind of an outcome of not paying attention to the customer feedback, not understanding what really is important to deliver today. Think from a manufacturing timeline, right, of these two products. If you are given to manufacture the one on the left side, obviously, we all know that will take way less time than manufacturing the one on the right side, right? It's actually a Swiss army knife and takes a lot to manufacture. It's a lot more complex to assemble. It is way more expensive. So what's happening is maybe you're pushing the customer away, one, through the delayed timeline that you need to deliver this product, the higher expense which you're cutting off some customers for whom this becomes unaffordable. And of course, finally the customer saying that, oh, I didn't ask for like 20 features in my product, I just wanted this one or two features and I'm good with it, right? So what is missing here, if I was a product manager, and by the way, this is this is just a little bit of a humorous or a funny example, but believe me, these things happen in the industry. Okay. These things happen because of lack of prioritization. I mean, they happen because of many other things, but if you do not prioritize of what is important today to deliver, what is urgent today to deliver, you kind of fail on a lot of commitments, right? Commitments to customers, commitment to your business, and so on. So prioritization becomes so important in getting to your business KPIs, getting to your customer value, and so on. And as students, you should think about this also, because you're not going to be students forever, at least in colleges, right? You are going to be learning and growing in corporates or your own companies or outside your colleges or even in your daily life, right? And that's where prioritization and the techniques that we'll talk about today become very essential to understand. Okay, so a quick recap, right? I would encourage that there is a session from Satkam called Problem Breakdown and Resolution. There are some techniques taught there. I will quickly talk about the steps, but for the full session, please visit the Satkam website or our YouTube page, and you will find our technique on problem breakdown, which of course we will teach you in one of the upcoming semesters if you have already not learnt about it, right? So understanding the various parameters that lead to a problem, applying your critical thinking ability to look at all the data that leads to the problem, asking the right questions, kind of invoking your curiosity, your inquisitiveness, asking for the data that leads to the problem, and basically culling out data that is unnecessary. A lot of times we know that we look at data which is unimportant. So culling out data or removing data which is unnecessary is equally important. And then what happens is you at least get to a good solid problem statement that I know now that to fix this particular problem, I have two or three solutions. Now you could apply prioritization to every solution. Like you have three solutions, solution number 1, 2, and 3. Apply prioritization to each of these, between these, and then within these also, right? So which one should you pick first? Solution number 1, 2, or 3 is one kind of application of prioritization. And then if you pick solution number 2 as the go forward plan, go deeper into solution number 2, because there is going to be a long list of things to do within that solution also. So amongst those things, which should I do first, right? So that is another level of prioritization that you apply within that, right? So just a side note here, right? I was talking with somebody and they asked me, or the conversation was centered on, why do companies pay their employees, right? And finally, we arrived at a, a, an answer which is kind of a distillation of everything, which is companies pay for the ability to apply all of this knowledge that you have learned to solve challenging problems and help the company. You solve a problem, the company benefits, the customers benefit, the customers in turn increase the company's revenue. So it's a win-win situation, and companies thus look for people who can apply these skills like problem solving, like critical thinking, like articulation, like prioritization, and so on, right? All right, so the steps in an overall problem breakdown and resolution methodology is, of course, identifying the problem, identifying the root cause of the problem. You need the right data and so on. You have enumerated multiple solutions. We land on the fourth step, which is now you have to get into which one to pick, right? Which solution do you pick and move forward, right? Any questions so far? So I'll give everybody maybe 10-15 seconds, and then we'll continue. If you think about any questions that you have on mind so far. Okay, so what we are going to do is use a case study. Everybody understands OTT, over the top, streaming solutions. We all have heard about the big players today like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hotstar and Geo Hotstar and so on. So let's assume that we are a part of this company. Okay, we are all a part of this company called Streams, and we are going to use this case study. So just to set context, right? What does this case study look like? We have been around for 4 years, right? We have a mobile app, we have a web app, we have content, we stream this content. How much is our revenue? So we have hit about 100 crores. Obviously, the 100 crores doesn't happen in a day. So we have spent a lot of time initially to come up to this level, but today's revenue stands at 100 crores. Okay. We have 90 lakh customers, right, in India. So the total number of customers are, let's say, 90 lakh who are giving us that kind of revenue. Okay. Um, we have three languages. So as there is always, uh, I mean, at least in India, there are like 23 languages and several dialects of the 140 crore population that we have here, right? Of the 1.4 billion people in India, let's look at how many people actually have mobile phones. Let's say 700 million people have mobile phones, and out of which how many people have smartphones and how many people do OTT subscriptions, out of which how many people have money in their pocket to pay for an OTT subscription, and so on, right? So we have what is called as a target addressable market. And in the past, what we have done is our target market is going to be the English speaking world in India. So everybody who understands English, everybody who understands Hindi, right? So as you know, the Hindi speaking belt in India is quite big. And in the past strategy, what we decided was that let's go after the Hindi speaking belt. And then there is a lot of content consumption in on the eastern side of India also. So we have put our application, our app, mobile app, in the Bangla language also. So these three are the languages that we serve today to our customers, and we have plans for growth, right? But let's look at why are the customers happy with us today, right? The customers are happy because we have Korean content, and that too in three languages. As you all know, K-pop and Korean content is pretty rich in its storylines and the costumes and the plot, the characters, and so on. And it has gotten to almost like a worldwide popularity. So what we have done is we have licensed some Korean content from Korean studios, right, who produce this content, and we serve it in three languages, other than of course the Korean native language. And not many people in India understand Korean native, so we focus on the either subtitles or dubbing, right? So that's all of that is what we have in the product, and customers love it for this, right? This is not the only thing, but this is one of the upsides why customer love our app. Then we have great recommendations. Okay, so we have invested quite a bit on AI. We have a good recommendations engine, and based on personal preferences, past history, and general persona identification, we serve our customers the right kind of recommendations. Our customers love us for that. The other thing is that it is a freemium model, right? So as you all know, freemium is, it's more like a try and buy, or to put it simply, if there is a web series with 10 episodes, the first two are free, and after that, we put a paywall. So which means that the customer has to pay after the first three. Okay. Now we are talking about what are our customers asking, right? So what we have found is, because there is popularity, because there is word of mouth, because of course there is marketing and advertisement effort, and there is a lot of customer surveys that we have done, we have found that kids content is what our customers are asking now. That, hey, you actually are giving us all this content, but you don't have kids content on your on your platform. Can you bring in that? The other ask from the customer is, let's say, Tamil and Marathi language. Okay, so a big contingent in Tamil Nadu is asking us for that language. And of course there is Tamil speaking diaspora, across India as well as the rest of the world, and everybody wants um, our content in that language. Same is the case with Marathi. So two languages that the customer are asking for. And the other feature that they are asking for is your downloads expire in one day. Okay. And we have basically kept it on purpose that we don't want our downloads to um, you know to be there forever. Can anybody tell me, quickly, why would we expire our downloads in a day? I'll just take a quick pause here. Tell me why you think that, what do we get if we expire our downloads in a day? Okay. So, so let me tell you, right? Two things. One is that there is repeat traffic, right? There is repeat traffic to our app. If we expire these downloads, people come back for more, and the more they come back onto the app, we can show them more and sell them more, right? So that's basically one reason to draw back traffic onto our app. Second reason is that the licenses from all these content providers, they also expire. So we have to make sure that our licenses expire with their licenses. Anyway, but our customers are asking us that, hey, don't please expire these downloads, at least give us these downloads for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, right? So we have that customer feedback. So that is external feedback that we are getting. And then there is internal feedback, right? So there is our marketing department which is saying, hey, we don't have Google Pay on our app, and our customers cannot use UPI. Now, with the proliferation of mobile phones as well as the digital economy, and specifically mobile based payments, it is almost becoming a norm that the first thing that you do is mobile payments, more than credit cards or bank transfers. So we don't have this in the app, and that's a big no. Who knows, there are multiple customers who may not be buying our product or subscribing to our service because we do not have UPI. Okay. The second thing which marketing is asking us to do is, can you bring in this feature of loyalty points? Okay. So when I say bring in the feature, remember that each time somebody asks for loyalty points, it's not easy to kind of have these features in the app, right? When I say easy, it takes effort to engineering effort to design, UX effort to have the right kind of interaction, customer interaction, user interaction with the product. Then look at integrating such a solution into the product, testing it, and then rolling it out, and so on, right? So there is cost involved whenever you have to add anything, right? So like a loyalty point is a feature for the product. If you to add that, it takes money to do that and time. And then the last thing that the marketing, and well, not the last thing, I would say, the out of the top three, the third thing that marketing is asking is seasonal themes. Okay, so every season we should have various different themes, changing of colors based on, if there is local festivals approaching, we should have themes which adapt to those local festivals, right? That's what they are asking. Now, one thing you will notice is that, these features, customer ask, marketing, any of these asks or upsides are just a short list. Okay, they are not a whole list of things that they are asking. Okay, but this is the top three of everything. Now let's look at where the company is headed, right? What do we want to do, let's say, in the next upcoming year? Okay, so year is typically divided in 4 quarters, and our CEO has given us a target that we need 30% new user growth. Okay, I'm specifically talking about new user growth, so pay attention to the new word there. Okay, so there is 30% addition to new user growth, and we want 10% ARR growth. So ARR, for those who don't know, is annual recurring revenue, and a lot of subscription companies use ARR as a measure of success, right? A target or a goal that they go after. That if my ARR today is 100 crores, I want to go after 110 crores next year, right? So that's the target that our CEO has set up. So this is the context of our case study, and let's look at what we got to do now. Okay. So here is the situation. You know, out of everything um, that we have discussed, right, in the case study, we have come up with these four things as the to do. Remember, there are like multiple solutions that you can have to get to your target. If I have to increase my ARR by 10%, I can just simply increase the cost to the customer, right? If my subscription is 200 rupees today, once I start charging 220 rupees, that is 10% extra on the revenue. Automatically, my ARR goes up by 10%. Why do I have to do all these things, right? But there is always a downside to doing one solution. So what we have come up with is that we have these top four things to be done, and we got to compare and contrast these four things which will get us to those targets, right? So going quickly back to the case study, as you know, the target is 30% of TAM growth. So we want 30% new users to be coming onto our app, and we want 10% additional revenue in the upcoming year. We have decided that we will add Google Pay, we will add another language, we will add loyalty hub, and we will add the kids content, right? So four things that we will add to the app. But how does one decide which one to do first, and why should we do that first, right? So it's not just about which one, there has to be a back to it, right? A reason why you want to do that, right? So take a minute and tell me what you would do to figure out which one to do first. Okay, and send your answers in chat. Okay, so we will get to those answers, but first we need to understand, what are prioritization framework. So there is no silver bullet here, right? There is no one solution to this problem. Each problem needs, a different diagnosis and different treatment. So let's look at, a few problem statements. Let's say a fintech company decides adding, cryptocurrency trading versus, fixing password reset flow. So there are two things that this fintech company wants to do, but they can do only one out of these two. How do you solve this? There is, during the discovery phase, right, or when we are working with fixed deadlines and stakeholders, what do we do? So you have been given kind of a time bound plan, right? What technique do you apply if you are told that, you have to get a few things done and here is the time, right, that we want this to be done? Or if you're designing a hotel booking site, what kind of framework do you apply? If you are a SaaS team who is looking at their backlog, when I say SaaS, it is software as a service, and you are a part of the engineering, there is a huge backlog, which means there are just like the to-do list for engineering is called the backlog, right? And you're looking at the backlog, but what technique do you apply, right, to sort that backlog, and so on, right? So let's look at each one, right? So there is the fintech solution. When anything is purely objective, date, when you need a purely objective, data driven way to compare features that are, vastly different from each other. The fintech solution, for example, is this cryptocurrency versus password reset, right? There's no similarity between these two features. When you run into something like this, then the gold standard is RICE, RICE, which is something which we'll talk in more detail today, right? So that's the prioritization framework you will pick whenever you find that you have multiple things. In our case, remember, we have multiple things which are kind of disassociated from each other. How can you really compare Google Pay with loyalty points? How can you compare adding a language with Google Pay? How can you compare Google Pay with kids content? These are all disparate things, right? And this technique, the RICE technique, the first one that you are seeing there, comes in very handy, and we'll talk about that in more detail. The second one, as you can see, is called Moscow, the Moscow method, right? So during the discovery phase, or when working with fixed deadlines and stakeholders, this is the best way for defining what is a minimum viable product. So the best way for, let's say, you're told to launch a food delivery app, okay? So do something like Zomato, come up with a new idea and launch that app, right? And what typically you do is, okay, I'll come up with a minimum viable product, and the way to look at what is that minimum viable product, the technique is Moscow. So what is the must have, what is should have, and what is won't have, for now at least, right? What I can push to later. So there is another term that industry uses, which is now, next, later. What do you do now? What do you do next? What do you do later, right? Very similar to what is must have in the product, which you should do in your MVP, which is minimum viable product, or your version number 1, right? What you should have and what you could have and what you will definitely not have, right? The third is called as the Kano method. So when you want to focus on, let's say, user delight or emotional satisfaction, rather than accomplishing things, right? So getting Google Pay in your app is exactly, it's like a well defined problem, and you want to get this done. But think about like that hotel booking site example that I was giving you. You want to build a website, um, which is a hotel booking website. What all things would you consider, right? So how do you scale from a basic thing like you can look at a room and book it, or will you look at the performance, speed of search result, the quality of images that you're showing. Of course, faster the performance is better, right, with good quality images. Or you look at something which delights the customer, so there is some kind of a uh, almost like a virtual reality walkthrough on your website and things like that, right? So there is a way to bucketize your ideas into what is basic, what is performance, and what are the delighters, right? And that's the Kano model. Then there is what is called as the value versus effort metrics. Okay, so remember the SaaS team, right, which is has that big backlog that they got to deliver, right? um, how do you look at that big backlog when you have like let's say 100 things to triage? The best way is to bucketize into high value, low effort. What can give me the biggest bang for my buck? So with a small effort, where can I get high value, which is a quick win, right? So anyway, I won't go into more detail on the solutioning part, but this is categorization, right? So what can give you the quick win? What could be a big bet? So high value but high effort, right? What is it that your company wants to do which is a big bet? I mean, for example, my company wants to introduce VR in my mobile app, right? So I have a OTT app and we want to introduce virtual reality in it. Lot of effort to do something like that, but lot of value also, right? People will be delighted to do something like that, but it will need lot of re-architecturing of your database or your platform and things like that. Or it could be a money pit, right? So it's low value but it is high effort, right? So why would you spend time doing something which is taking a lot of effort and not giving you why would you spend time you know um, building something custom and internal? For example, you are in a college and the college has some learning management system. While you're in the college, would you spend time building a learning management system for your college? Probably not, because it is a very very high effort and there is low value, because there are 100 learning management systems already available out there. Unless you form a product company which can compete with those products, that's a different story, right? But here we are talking about solutions, and comparatively the money pit is something you want to stay away from, right? So that's the value effort metrics. And then there is other techniques which are like cost of delay, right? So when GPay, for example, right, we want to introduce GPay in our product, but we will only be able to do it next year. Is that acceptable? I don't think so. Our CEO is not going to accept it. So what is the cost of that delay, right? If you don't do something for a year, how much money are you losing, right? And basis on the of that, you can take a decision. So it's like loss prevention, or what can you do so that you don't end up incurring that loss, right? What is the cost of that delay? So higher the cost of delay, the priority of that feature goes higher and higher, right? I'm saying higher the cost of delay, not the effort, remember. Okay. All right. So I think opportunity scoring is another thing, but it is typically for like you want to find a job, you put multiple things in a data sheet and you compare and contrast, right? So what is the upside of doing this versus what is the upside of doing that. Both the universities look good. I want to do my masters, and whether I should go here or whether I should go here, what is the best for me, and so on, right? So opportunity scoring helps in those situations, because there is a huge gap between the importance and satisfaction. It kind of helps. All right, so these are various different prioritization frameworks that one could use, and just so that it's visible to you, won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but whenever this is kind of the criteria, or this is your cheat sheet, right? New product, MVP, go with a Moscow or a Kano model. When there is growth and scale on an existing product and you want to do some weighted scoring, go for or you want to do some scoring, go for rice, which is in some ways a weighted scoring model also. Whenever there is monetization becomes the key, go for cost of delay model. And whenever there is this visual brainstorming, go for either the value versus effort metrics, or what is called as a product tree, right? So those are some of the selection criterias to select from various of these frameworks. Now I will take a slight digression, because if I go back maybe 10 years, when of course there was analytics, there was data, there were queries that one could run on database, but collecting all that data, sorting it, and making sense of what is usable, and then using that data was time consuming, and it needed a certain level and above skill to be able to do that. The role of AI going forward is going to be critical, because I would say for you as students, as or future entrepreneurs or corporate employees, you are going to use this as an accelerator, right? And as you can see, there are like two dimensions to look at, right? The role of AI that's happening in the world today. One dimension is the whole growth dimension, right? What can I give to my customers to delight them from an AI perspective? How can I build value into my product which helps build or which delivers customer value? How can I make my customers' job simpler by giving some AI solution in my product, right? So that's one kind of acceleration that is happening. The other dimension to look at is the profitability direction, right? So how much cost can I save because of AI? And cost saving is nothing but it's like analyzing a lot of data used to take 1 week. Now if I can do it in 1 hour by using AI acceleration, that is cost saving, right? Similarly in engineering, as all of you guys must be using Copilot or Claude or some other model for assisting you in programming, right? I want to build a Python script to do XYZ things. I can just go to a Microsoft Copilot, instead of spending time learning about Python and all the details and all that, right? Send some prompts, get my script done, move on with my project, right? So there is cost saving there, and that's towards kind of the profitability, right? You increase profitability by decreasing kind of the bottom line, by which increases your margins, right? So this is kind of where AI is playing today. Without getting into every detail of every line that you are seeing here, typically we have seen that how do you apply this in prioritization, right? So we have learned about various frameworks now. We understand what is prioritization. What are the steps, right? So the first step in prioritization is the data collection, right? So synthesis of data. Absolutely, you can ask prompts like summarize the top 3 friction points in our payment flow, right? From Slack and support data. And Slack is a chat tool that companies use, and there is support data that the company has. So go look at all that data and tell me the top 3 things that customer is asking. Okay, remember, we already in our case study looked at the three things that customer are asking. Those came from AI acceleration. We wrote a lot of prompts. It's not just this small one-liner prompt. It needs a lot of thinking behind what you are asking AI, because AI can hallucinate. You all know, right? It can give you wrong results. It can give you results without explanation and so on. So you need to make sure the data that is getting returned from AI is truly what you're seeking and useful to you, right? Second is kind of the reach estimation. So in a rice kind of a model, how many reach is nothing but how many people I can reach, right? So AI agents can help you scan that data. For example, I want to understand how many possible Tamil speaking users are there in India, users for the mobile app, the OTT mobile app, right? Now, this is just screen scraping and gleaning data from the internet, looking at various reports and looking at what otherwise, Google was telling us so far, and synthesizing all that and telling you that, okay, if you go after, if you add Tamil language, then this is the kind of TAM that you can look at, right? So there is acceleration, but what is it that you're seeking is something which you need to prompt the AI, right? So having the right kind of questions asked, the structure, giving a lot of context to what you're asking AI engines to do, helps in the sanity of the data that's coming back. The third is the impact penetration. If I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen? And so on, right? When I say what will happen, from an impact perspective, how much of a change in the revenue will it be? Yesterday, or when I say yesterday, in the past, you were building models in Excel sheet and trying to figure out, okay, let me build a model week over week, month over month, like 1% change month over month, it will give me this much. Then there are so many repeat customers, so many new customers, this is the percentage I get out of that 1% from repeat, this is the percentage from new customers, this is my churn, and so on. So my net impact is $600,000, right? Now this entire calculation which I explained to you in whatever time, right, 30 seconds, is something which AI can return in 30 seconds really, right? And this is the acceleration that nowadays people are getting from using AI for impact prediction. So building predictive models has become slightly easy, but again, the input to AI is critical. Then there is effort estimation. If I know from my past history, or as our company has been there for 4 years, we have a lot of engineering data that we have collected. We know how much time and effort it takes to deliver a feature or a product functionality. And when I say deliver, I'm not talking about just the output part, right? Output is one which is important, but the outcome also, right? When it reaches the customer. So one is getting things from paper, feature, to actually a code which is working in the product, and then having that code made available as a feature to your customers, and customers liking it and paying you back for that extra subscription. That's what I mean by assessment of that effort. It's also called effort estimation, and AI can definitely help there using some past data that you have. And finally, scoring and ranking. So out of all the synthesis that we have done, the AI can always help you in assigning the kind of weights, right? So let's look at what these weights look like. Okay. So before I go there, I think the bottom line on why we talk about AI is because AI, think of AI as a tool, right? I mean, you could use AI to accelerate what you're doing and get efficiency gains, which helps profitability, or you can accelerate your delivery, which gives you different kind of gains, which helps your growth, right? So one way or the other, Now people have started thinking about how AI is affecting my growth and profitability. Okay, and this is again, um, I would say recent as maybe the last 2 years, that people have started changing themselves, right? The corporates have started changing themselves on how much of AI adoption, what is the attach rates to AI, how much of growth am I getting from AI, and so on, right? So as you graduate and as you get into the corporate world, this will almost become a norm, using AI in your day-to-day operations. All right. So here is a scale multiplier. It is basically a table, right, that our company has formed. As you know, RICE stands for reach, impact, confidence, and effort. RICE, right? And thus it is called a RICE model. The way to look at impact is that you have what is also called in the industry as t-shirt sizing. So when you say, a massive reach, it means, um, if I add this feature, it will reach more than 10 million customers. That's massive reach. If the reach is high, then it is between 9.9 million and 1 million, and so on and so forth, right? So there is massive, high, medium, and low from reach, and we have attached weight to each reach. Now you will ask me, where this weight comes from. So this is something where experience counts. This may not be something where AI might help you on what weight to attach, but this is where, years of experience, some experts in your industry, in your company, they know what a good weight is to attach to a certain reach, right? So as employees of the company, we have been given this kind of a formula, that if my impact is high needle mover, meaning, a lot of revenue generation, a lot of customer growth, then I call it high needle mover. I am attaching a weight of 10. If it is medium, 5, low, 2, and so on. Confidence is the inverse of risk. High confidence meaning low risk, low confidence is high risk, right? So if the confidence is low, the weight is low, as you can see in the spread, in the chart. And then effort, high effort is high weight. Okay, now the formula is RIC divided by effort. Okay, so this is something which I purposely did not put on this slide, but something to ponder about, that the formula for score is RIC divided by effort. The effort is in the denominator because high effort has to bring the score down. High effort is low score, low effort is high score. Okay. All right. So now we have a target which we are going after. What we have done is, we have used kind of two models here. Instead of using multiple models, multiple frameworks, we used two frameworks. Use the Moscow framework to define the playing field, right? So what is a must have, should have, could have, and then once you have a list in the must have, use a RICE model for the winners. Okay, who is the top in that list of must have, who is the top in that list of should have, could have, and so on, right? So the way we have landed here, and I'll want you to ponder on this, right? So we are, remember, our target was the OTT growth. We have 4 proposed solutions, GPay, new language, kids content, and loyalty program, right? The step 1 is what is a must have. Okay, so GPay is a must have. So we have an internal meeting and everybody agrees that, GPay is a must have because it is relatively low friction in signups. We have market data which says that GPay is loved, or any kind of UPI. I don't mean to just sell GPay, but when I say any kind of UPI is easy. People are used to it. It is their habit. So it is nothing that new feature that the customers have to learn, right? When you open a new app and you want to pay and you see the UPI option, nowadays you already know what to do, right? You enter the UPI ID, scan the QR code, make the payment, put the OTP, and you're done, right? So you, this is customer habit. You have already have that habit in your mind. Get into that habit, right? Instead of teaching some new methodology to customer, get in their habit. And thus we have all decided that GPay is a must have. Similarly, we have decided that TAM is, it's necessary for TAM growth, but high effort, which is new language. Yes, definitely. Kids is I think 70, if I'm not mistaken, some 9%, 9 or 12% of the population in India is that kids population, right? Who watch content online, and when I say kids, I'm not talking about um, anybody who is more than 16, right? I'm talking about, let's say, between 8 to 16 years of age, right? Who watch content, um, or even earlier, maybe 6 to 10 years, um, who watch kids content, right? Especially cartoons and those kind of things. And then the last one is loyalty program. So yes, new growth, but not a big retention. So we'll put it as won't have. Okay, so we have applied this Moscow filter. Then what we are doing is we are going to we did rice. Obviously, we did rice with AI assistance for each of GPay, language, kids content, loyalty program. What is the reach? What is the impact? What is the confidence? What is the effort, right? So we got those numbers, and let's look at how to calculate now. Okay, so for GPay, and here is something where I want you to tell me these answers, and we'll come back finally with the final answer in a bit. But you tell me from this chart, if I tell you that Google Pay, look at the top right corner, Google Pay is high reach, high needle mover, mid confidence, and mid effort. Remember, the formula is RIC, R multiplied by I multiplied by C divided by effort. Take a minute and calculate this, and then we'll move on. Okay, let's move on. So there are some answers, but we'll disclose all the answers later. This is the second. So what I want you guys to do is look at this Google Pay image, this slide. Look at the reach, impact, confidence, and then calculate the score. Score is R multiplied by I multiplied by C divided by E. and mid effort. Remember, the formula is RIC, R multiplied by I multiplied by C divided by effort. Take a minute and calculate this, and then we'll move on. Okay, let's move on. So, there are some answers, but we'll disclose all the answers later. This is the second one, which is the language introduction. So, let's say we think of Tamil language to be introduced. The reach is massive, impact is medium, confidence is mid, effort is very high. Okay, please calculate basis reach multiplied by impact multiplied by confidence divided by effort. You take a minute to calculate and send in your answers in the chat window. Okay, so we move to the next one, which is the kids content. The reach is medium, impact is high, confidence is high, and effort is medium, right? R multiplied by I multiplied by C divided by effort. Please calculate and send your answers in chat. We'll give everybody a minute. Which is the kids content. The reach is medium, impact is high, confidence is high, and effort is medium, right? R multiplied by I multiplied by C divided by effort. Please calculate and send your answers in chat. We'll give everybody a minute. All right, and now the last one, which is the scale for loyalty points. So reach is low, impact is low, confidence is high, effort is low. You know the formula already. Let me know the answers. Again, for those those who missed the point earlier, the calculation that you have to do is look at these spreadsheets, look at the weight value, take that weight, open your phones or calculators, and just it's a simple 8 standard mathematics to calculate reach multiplied by impact multiplied by confidence divided by effort. So take a minute, and I promise you this is the third last slide. So we'll wrap in a bit. Okay, so I think all of you kind of did these calculations, and here is how it looks like. As you can see, the score is 320 for Google Pay, and thus the rank is 1, the language is 80, kids content is 50, loyalty is 20, and thus they are down the ranks, right? So now we have a very objective way. We have looked at the data, we have looked at every possibility, how much reach, how much impact, how much confidence do we have to deliver, and what effort does it cost. We have looked at the Moscow model first to think about what is a must have, should have. Then we applied rice scoring, and we came up with this as the result. Okay, so this is how one decides which one to do first, and now we have a reason why we should do first also. Okay. Before I kind of conclude, right, in a minute, remember that AI provides the first drafts. Do not go by exactly what AI is telling you, right? Remember, in the past, what you used to do is fire a few queries on Google, get the data, and take time to analyze the data and make your own judgment calls based on that data. That okay, this is something which I will do, will not do. This data is not useful. Let me write another query, get more data on it, and so on, right? With AI, with Gemini and Chat GPT and these kind of tools, what is happening is you get almost like a automated result that okay, go do this. Okay, the scoring itself, the reach, impact, effort, and confidence, all of that also has limited or limiting accuracy with what AI is returning. So verify that, and please use human judgment for the trade-offs where the data is messy or conflicting. So where the data is kind of clean, right? When I say clean data, it is about how many users in India use Google Pay. There's only one real number, maybe a few counts here and there on people who have dropped out of Google Pay and moved on to something else, and so on. But by and large, you can actually point to that data. It is exact data, right? It's not messy data. But there could be messy data, like if I want to build a hotel booking site, how many people in India would like to use my site? Maybe AI will give you that answer, but based on what, right? Based on a lot of conflicting, unstructured, unclassified kind of data, right? So please use human judgment when you're using results from AI in your day-to-day decision making. But this was essentially, in a nutshell, what we talked about was you know um, prioritization. Basis prioritization, people take objective decisions, and objective decisions lead to good outputs which lead to good outcomes, right? And that's the reason why Satkam feels that this is a desirable skill to have for students and future corporate world employees or entrepreneurs. Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day ahead. Bye for now. Thank you all and have a great day.